I am Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have a special guest. She is the author of the poetry book Likkle This, Likkle That. No other than Miss Charmaine Chanivecky.
Thank you.
Welcome to Book
Yeah.
101, Miss Charmaine, and can you please introduce yourself?
Okay. Thank you for having me. Yes, I'm a foreign language teacher and I tutor foreign languages, but I've always loved poetry ever since I was a teenager. So I've always, written poetry, just throw them away. But I decided during COVID I started to write more and collect it on my laptop. And I found I had a whole lot of a collection so big. It's almost 400 and odd now. So I've this is my first book. It's debut Jamaican collection. And since then
Wow.
I've written some others, just keep going and enjoying the process of writing and making books.
Congratulations for sharing your poetry to the world. So, Miss Charmaine, what inspired you the most when you're writing poetry?
So writing poetry, I used it as therapy. I think not used. I always use poetry as therapy. I remember if I was sad or if I was processing something, I would write. And I love rhyming couplets. So it ends up looking like a poem. And so I just really love poetry. My father has always loved poetry. He's written poems for us and whether for birthdays and different occasions, and I got that from him. So I find it therapeutic, and that's the main inspiration. But this particular one, yes, I guess it was therapy actually. It was therapy too. It ended up being quite lighthearted, but
Yes.
yeah, I think it started out as therapy as well.
How do you choose the themes of your poems?
Yeah, that's uh there's a poet who said once there is life, there's a poem. And so I feel like the themes choose themselves. So if I be specific on this book, the first I had never written poems in our Jamaican Creole. It
Yeah.
was always English. But during COVID, I think it was a very introspective time for most of us. And I used to go back home, go to Jamaica once a year. And then suddenly we couldn't go, right? And so I was missing my family. I was missing my family so much. And I just thought, I miss you bad. And I find that our Creole is very expressive. It gives that a deep feeling. Probably you can relate with me. I'm not sure if it's the same with you have different dialects in Philippines, right?
Yes.
And sometimes that's the language that's just going to do it, just going to express it. And so I found that deep feeling just came out in that Miss You Bad. And that was my first Patwa poem that I wrote. I said, Miss You Bad. Me never know me could have feel so sad. Miss your walks and I miss your talks. And it goes on. If I remember the rest. So that was, and I said, you know what? Let me try this challenge. Let me see if I can write poems in Patwa. And so I started. I started that. Yeah,
So Likkle this, Likkle that is both in English and what the other languages?
Patwa, the Creole.
The
Patwa.
Creole. Okay.
That
So what is your process for starting a new poem?
poem. Starting a new poem. I start with a line. Usually it's just a line, like the one I told you, I miss you bad. And then I let the feelings flow and I write. I don't correct, I don't do anything. I let the poem write itself. And very often, there's very little to change once I write it. Very often. Now, sometimes I go into my headspace and I'll go back, and sometimes I'll make edits and I'll have to say, it's not quite what I want. So in other words, a lot of times the poem writes itself, and there's very little to change. But I do make edits along the way. But if I go too much in my headspace, I can change the cadence, and where the emphasis falls. Sometimes that gets messed up if I go too much into my head. If you understand, yeah,
Yes. So,
yeah.
Miss Charmaine, can you read some of the stanza of I Miss You Bad?
I miss you bad.
Yeah,
Okay,
Miss You
I
Bad.
let me let me see that. Let me just pull it up here, and it's been a while. It's miss you bad. Okay, give me miss you bad on page 74. So I'll read that one. Yes, that one I was really thinking about my family, but you know what? I didn't. It wasn't just my family. It was Jamaica. It was everything. So I'm gonna read it. Okay.
Sure.
So, and hope you understand most of it. Miss you bad. Me miss you, man. Miss you bad. Me never know me could have feel so sad. Me miss your little walk. Me miss we little walks and the whole heap of talks. The little things here and there. Little jokes we would have share. Or the garden outside. That is your joy and pride. Me will call you one day and hope you can talk, chat. So make me know what you think about that. But one of these days when me knock on your door, me glad bag will bust with joy galore. Me was so glad to see you for true. That going be a real howdy do. Me never know me would I miss you so much. Me miss your smile and me miss your touch. Meanwhile, no bother fret. Make yourself happy. You're not gone yet. Life too short. Me sure you agree. So treat every day like a jubilee. Did you understand much of that?
Yes. Bravo. Bravo, Miss Charmaine. As I said, thank you for sharing your poetry to the world. And how do you decide on the structure or form of a poem?
Okay, structure or form. A lot of them started with four-line stanzas. And so I'd have four-line stanzas, and most are about four verses. Some have been shorter, three verses, and some even seven. But for the most part, the structure, I liked four-line stanzas.
Mm.
And the structure really is decided by the flow of the action, right? So just as would be writing prose and the action changes, then I would change the stanza. So some of them have ended up, not sure if in this collection really, I should know. But recently I've been writing some more six-line stanzas and eight lines, just because just adding a little variety,
Mm.
and challenge. Yeah.
Yes. So, what role does imagery play in your poetry?
Say that again, please.
How role does imagery play in your poetry?
Imagery definitely is an important part, a very important part, because when you're reading, you want to visualize, And so you need adjectives, you need that exact word to bring across uh, that imagery you want to convey, um, a feeling as well. But let's see in terms of what you say, imagery. Um, yeah, mine just went on the one about having a coconut
Yes.
and saying that it just tickled me craw. Uh, Tourists will drink a coconut through a straw, but my enjoyment is drinking it from the husk. And so I describe that feeling of drinking through the straw is like just tickling your throat, tickle me craw. It doesn't give the satisfaction. So yeah, imagery is very important. And in this particular collection, what I tried to do was to use some of our phrases. We have a lot of phrases. Uh, One word is pian pian, double word pian pian, meaning it's not of good quality. So I would choose a word and I say, okay, I'm going to develop this pian pian, and then go along with it
To
and
make
get the
more.
imagery.
Yes,
Yeah.
to make more the image vivid to everyone will read. But before we go on, Miss Charmaine, I want to shout
Yes.
out my top 5 countries listening according to my pod charts. Because in St. Kitts and Nevis, I'm number 7 in books, number
Oh,
23
wow.
in St. Kitts and Nevis in arts, number 25 in Swaziland, 31 in Uganda in books, and 56 Uganda in arts. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast. Also, my Geography 101. I want to thank Morocco, Egypt, Hungary, Denmark, and Canada for supporting my Geography 101. And Book 101 Review is created to empower writers, authors all over the world, like me, Charmaine, Chanivecky. Do you
Thank
prefer
you.
writing free verse or structured poetry, Miss Charmaine?
Structure. Structure. I'm a real traditionalist. I've seen the modern poetry, and I appreciate them, but I just love stanzas. I love regular beats. I love to feel that regular beat, and I like to I try to get out of rhymes a lot, but it is very hard to do so. I'm just I love I just really love the feel of that. It's almost like if you think about reggae music or think about any music that you have a regular beat, right? And I like to feel that. That's it. Yeah, I
So,
have a passion for that.
so how do you develop a unique voice or style in your poetry?
That's very important to be unique. But I think that as individuals, we're unique. So I think that every part of my personality and my experiences have shaped my poetry. So though we have something in common, let's say this collection is a Jamaican collection or just human, what's the word now? Human experience. For example, Miss You Bad, it's not just Jamaican, right? Human experience. But the way that, so to be unique, as you say,
Yes. So, what are some common mistakes to avoid when writing poetry?
you don't want poetry to be corny. I think, well, unless that's what you're going for to be really. I'm doing a light-hearted one right now, and that one is a little is. You talked about unique, and just to go to that, I'm working on a light-hearted one, which I'm usually a very deep thinker, and so lightheartedness. My husband taught me that a lot. To laugh at yourself and to just have fun, and that's a great
Yes.
quality.
Yes, for
So
sure. So Likkle this, Likkle that, it's a Creole, or you just changed it in a
it's
broader way?
right. I, I try to focus. I'm answering well in that it starts out with English.
Yeah.
So if you look, it's about 20 poems in English, and
Uh-uh.
in the preface I explain that it's an integral part of my identity because English is what I speak. You know, it's Creole also is a part of the culture, but we don't use it in every situation. You know, for example, we're doing this interview, we wouldn't be doing it's gaining more popularity in different areas, but there's a formal language, and then there's the Creole. I find that if you're mad or if you want to be lighthearted, the Creole lends itself very well to that. And sorry, sometimes I'm talking and then I veer from. I try to remember what you had asked me. So the first section in English are really honoring the landscape, the people, and it's remembering with great nostalgia really the beauty of the island.
The beauty of Jamaica. So how do you approach editing and revising your poems?
Editing and revising. Yeah. I think of, okay, this is what I feel, this is what I thought, and how will my audience respond to it. So there are a few poems that I did change maybe quite a bit. I even took out one stanza of one I remember because I thought, how will this be received by my greater audience? And so I think you have to involve them because if you're going to put it in a book, right, it's not just for myself anymore, but it's for you and it's for everyone else to enjoy. So that plays a big part too.
For everybody. But before we go on, Miss Charmaine, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my featured author of the month of August, Mr. Douglas Burton, award-winning author. We're gonna do our second episode this coming week, so please do tune in. And of course, my featured author of the month of July, Mr. Sebastian De Castle, award-winning and best-selling author. Please support them because if you support them, more books to come. Like me, Charmaine, Chanivecky. So, how do you overcome writer's block when you composing or writing a poem?
And it's real. It's
It's
real, it's
real.
real, it's real. Yeah, yeah.
Just
Writer's block. I have one. I said the pen the pen stops or something like that. And then yeah, I don't have it here. So I wrote about that experience of the writer's block. And when you're in a writing zone, it really, well, for me, it was just going and going, and it was just continuing. But now, if you have other stresses coming in, your brain is processing different things. I find even the marketing, I'll tell you, even the marketing, it has crushed a bit of my creative energy because it's a whole different type of energy, right? And it's not one that I am proficient at. It's something I'm learning. I said it the other day. I said, no, this thing is crushing my creative energy. And so I have to reel back in myself and do the things that will just get me into that creative space. Sometimes it's even napping. I find a lot of my poems, I woke up with this, hey, I have this thought in my mind and I write it down. So I have to get to the spaces that nurture me.
Yes, nurture your own self. What
Yes.
techniques do you use to evoke emotions in your readers?
Wow. Emotions. Yes. sometimes it's lengthy description, but at other times it's quite the opposite. Just a short interjection. I'm trying to remember of a short interjection, or just as I say, you have to find the appropriate word. Length is important, and as you say, imagery. With imagery, you can have a lengthy description with alliteration, sounds, all of that play a part. In one of my poems, I have not put that in a collection yet. It's a very short poem. I think one of the shortest I've written, and it just says, bleeding, yet no one sees this invisible wound. that one you might have to cut. I forgot it now. It said bleeding, but no one sees this invisible wound, whose pain has found no ease. And at the end, that line, it just has no ease.
Very well said. Very well said, Miss Charmaine. And how do you balance abstract ideas with concrete details in your poetry? Likkle this, Likkle that.
Abstract ideas with concrete items, you said?
Yes.
Say abstract ideas with concrete items. So in one of them here, it's talking about children who may have gone astray and who maybe have disappointed in the choices they've made. I'm thinking that can be a bit of abstract idea. Not sure. Just a minute here. That I'm trying to put shape to that. That's a great question, and but I think
No worries, Miss Charmaine.
I'm thinking which abstract idea that's with concrete, right?
Details,
So,
yes.
Yes, concrete details. Looking at this one, it's called Teeth and Tongue Must Meet. Might be, tell me if this fits. I think so.
Can you read?
It's a saying we have: teeth and tongue must meet. But I'll just give you the idea. I think,
Yes.
Which means that as loving as a couple you may be, you're always going to have some disagreement. No couple has ever been, I think, through their marriage without a disagreement. So that's what that saying means. And I thought of that saying, okay, let's see how I can develop it into a scenario. And what I did was just pick one tiny detail, something that you may not like. And I just chose singing. I just picked it out of the hat. I said, okay, I'm going to choose singing as an annoying quality in this partner, right? Generally, we appreciate singing. But I suppose if your voice isn't that great, maybe you won't appreciate it, right? So I picked that out of a hat, and I would say that that's concrete thing. But to convey that we need to appreciate differences and to convey the idea that we will all have disagreements, but how we deal with them is the important thing.
Very well said, Miss Charmaine. Very well said. But before we go on, I'm inviting you to please do purchase one of my audiobooks, people, available on Audible. Stand Tall, Stand Together, Breaking the Chains of Bullying, and Book 101 Review, Volume 1, highly recommended. These are my 100 episodes of my first season of Book 101 Review, and of course, my thread of existence, one of my self-help book, Waving the Tapestry of Life, and one more. Life is Too Short, one of my self-help book. Life is Too Short, a journey, a discovery, fulfillment, and joy. And Book 101 Review, Volume 3. Again, this is my 100 episodes of my first season of Book 101. And of course, my climate change book, We Are Burning in British Columbia, as usual, every summer. So please do grab or purchase my Earth Fever, The Unraveling Climate, and Our Race to Restore Balance. And my last volume on Book 101 Review, I'm planning to have more volumes for my Book 101 Review, but I have no time for doing it. But for sure, I'm going to add more on my Book 101 Review, Volume 2 Selected. As I said, these are my 100 episodes of my first season of Book 101. So please do purchase them. One of the bestsellers on Audible. So, Miss Charmaine, can you please invite our listeners to support your poetry book?
Okay. Yes, as I said, this little book, it's a getaway. It's a little getaway to the island of Jamaica. That's what I did when I couldn't go. And each poem takes you to a different facet of the island, whether the culture, the people, the landscape. And yes, it's a really a retreat to the island, and it's pretty lighthearted, pretty lighthearted. So if you want a little pickup during the day, it's pretty easy read, because the thing is that you don't have to read the whole thing all at once. You just decide, oh, I'll read this poem today, I'll read this later. And I also think it's not just for Jamaicans, right? I was surprised. I was surprised when some Canadians bought and said, hey, they're really enjoying it. And so, even if you haven't been to Jamaica, it gives you a very nice glimpse into what you could find. The
Yes.
beauty of the people and the generosity. It's a lot. It's packed with a whole variety of the culture.
So, Miss Charmaine, you're doing a prequel or sequel for this poetry.
This one,
Yes, for the
yes,
book too.
the book too. My dad said when I came out with this, I really, my first goal was, I wanted to have a book that he could see. He's always saying, I really inherited that from him, and so I wanted to do. But he said, next time, Charmaine, do a full Patwa. So I'm thinking about that, to do a one in the Creole. And
Yes.
so I'm working
The
on that
second book.
gradually. Yes.
Yes, looking forward for the second book, Miss Charmaine. And people, let's support Miss Charmaine Chanivecky, because if you support her, more poetry books to come. So, Miss Charmaine, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Bodycam people, see you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
You are most